In your discussions with Indian officials, have you spoken about all that has happened as the situation gets tenser, a new arrest warrant against Nasheed, even as the government has criticized India's move of giving him refuge in the Indian High Commission?
Well, I haven't had a chance to discuss today yet because we've had mostly our Afghan discussions, but we've been in very close touch throughout this whole crisis with India, and I think we have a very similar perspective on the situation in Maldives. We both think that there needs to be due process for Mr. Nasheed. We both think that we all need to do everything we can to help prepare for elections that will take place later this year. And we all think that all the parties in the Maldives should be allowed to choose their own candidates.
I ask you this specifically because within a few days of the actual deposition of President Nasheed, you were in Mali dealing with that situation. The US has certainly taken a very keen interest in events in the Maldives. Would you consider a more direct intervention of the kind India is doing, mediating between the government and Nasheed's people? Do you think the situation in the Maldives merits a US intervention now?
Well, it depends what you mean by an intervention. We've had a succession of visits over the last several months, as has the Commonwealth, as the government of India. And again, we all work together very closely, and I think we have a very common assessment of the situation.
But if the government was to move to, in some way, try and enforce the arrest of President Nasheed or put off elections, is that something the U.S. would, in fact, consider taking a more direct role in? Well,
again, I don't want to try to engage in speculation about what might happen. But our bottom lines, again, are that this all needs to take place in the context of the Maldivian Constitution and in the context of these very, very important elections that are taking place. All of us have a strong stake in the Maldives because they've been a very strong supporter of things like climate change and international human rights issues that are extremely important to the United States. So this is a country that we would like to see succeed and its institutions respected.
You're saying that given that the Maldivian government has actually criticized the Indian decision to keep former President Nasheed in the mission for more than a week, do you support the Indian decision to do that?
I'm not fully up to speed on the discussions that have taken place between India and Maldives, but again, we in India have a very close assessment of the situation.
Let's talk about the trilateral then. Just last week, US President Obama has announced cutting down more than 30,000 more troops as part of the pullout from Afghanistan. This has led to many concerns in India. In your discussions during the trilateral, did India bring up those specific concerns?
Well, I'll let India speak for itself, but from our perspective, we want to continue to support the Afghans and the Afghan National Security Forces. And I think the point to make to all your listeners is that the ANSF have been making good progress. They now have responsibility for territory in which 90% of the Afghan population live, and they also are now in the lead on 80% of the security operations that are taking place. So they are making very good progress, and I think President Obama's announcements reflect that progress and reflect the desire of the Afghans to take greater responsibility for themselves. So we will now have approximately 2 years until the end of 2014 to continue to help train the ANSF and to continue to assess what further assistance they might need. And I think the other important thing to stress is that NATO and the United States have pledged assistance beyond 2014 in the sense that we will continue to fund the ANSF at least till 2015 and perhaps longer. And we'll also have a residual force in Afghanistan. The exact number has not yet been determined, but we will continue to provide that training, and we'll have at least some troops on the ground.
All right. If I could switch subjects to the subject of the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Narendra Modi. Now, in the intervening months since you were here last, it's not just the United Kingdom, but also the European Union that has revoked their boycotts on meetings with the Gujarat Chief Minister. Is the U.S. reconsidering its policy, revisiting that decision to revoke his visa to the U.S.?
No, our policy remains the same.
I ask that because a year ago, we certainly heard Senator Bob Corker, who had written to the State Department, written to the Indian mission, the U.S. mission, and the reply he had received was that Mr. Modi remains ineligible for a visa Even so, you had spoken a few months ago of the possibility of him applying for a visa and then perhaps that being considered in due course. Has the U.S. softened its position at all on that?
No, again, our policy hasn't changed. If I said something about him applying for a visa, that just refers to the fact that anybody can apply for a visa anytime, but we never prejudge the outcome of such a decision.
All right. Finally, you're also here at a time India's defense purchases are under a particular scrutiny. To begin with, is the U.S. at all concerned? Are you revisiting any of the deals that have been done? There are about $8 billion in deals on the anvil between India and the U.S. Is there a concern in the U.S. at all that many of those deals could have been secured through bribes?
No, we're not concerned about that. We hold our companies to very, very high standards. We have very strict anti-corruption regulations, and those companies are well aware of that. So we are not concerned about that.
India has already moved to suspend for the moment the delivery of Augusta-Westland helicopters, and other deals that are being done through the same agencies are also under scrutiny. Is the U.S. looking once again to make a bid for Indian defense deals in these sectors, given that the U.S. had been quite disappointed when they had lost out on some of those deals?
Well, so Hasni, I would say that we're very happy with the progress we've made in a lot of defense deals. As you know, the figures have gone from virtually nothing up to almost $9 billion now in sales just in recent years. And as you also know, there's an important effort underway now to look at a more strategic level at how we can further develop our defense trade. So we're satisfied with the progress, and we're very excited about the opportunities.